Hello everyone, welcome to Cholo Golpo Shuni's YouTube channel, and you are listening to English Voice Room. I am Swetanshu, here to tell you a story on mystery, horror, and much more. Do not forget to subscribe and leave a comment and share our audiobook with your friends and loved ones. Happy listening. I have always believed that silence has a sound. Some people laugh when they hear that. Silence, they say, is the absence of sound. But they are wrong. Anyone who has stayed long enough knows that silence has its own voice. It hums in empty rooms, whispers in the hallways, and sometimes it listens back. The incident I am about to tell happened last winter. I had rented a small forgotten house on the outskirts of the city. The kind of place no one visits unless they are lost. The owner said that it has been empty for years. The rent was cheap and the isolation was exactly what I needed. The house had only 3 rooms, a living room, a kitchen, a bedroom at the end of a narrow corridor. The corridor was strange. It was longer than it should have been for a house that small. But I didn't think much of it at first. The first few nights were peaceful, too peaceful. No traffic sounds, no barking dogs, no distant voices, just silence. But after a few days, I began to notice something unusual. Every night, around the same time, the silence in the corridor felt heavier, not louder, not quieter, just heavier. As if the darkness there had a weight. One night I decided to test something. I stood at the entrance of the corridor and listened. Nothing. Then I whispered very softly, "Hello." The sound of my voice faded quickly into the darkness, and then something strange happened. The silence whispered back. Not a word, not a voice, just a faint, shifting sound, like someone gently adjusting their position in the dark. I laughed at myself that night. Old houses make strange noises. Wood contracts and pipes creak. But the next night, it happened again. And the night after that, each time I spoke into the corridor, the silence moved. The sound was always so subtle, a small scrape, a slow shift, almost like breathing. I began avoiding the corridor at night, but curiosity is a dangerous thing when you live alone. A week later, during a power outage, the entire house went dark. The only light came from a candle in my hand. I stood there for a moment, staring at the corridor. The darkness inside it looked deeper than usual. I told myself it was just the candlelight playing tricks. Still, I walked closer. Step by step, the floorboard creaked under my feet. When I reached the corridor entrance, I held up the candle and said quietly, "Is someone there?" The silence returned immediately, but this time it did not stop. It continued, slowly, steadily, like breathing. I froze. The sound was not coming from the walls, it was coming From the end of the corridor, something was there. It was breathing. I raised the candle higher and took another step, then another. The corridor seemed longer than before. The bedroom door at the end felt impossibly far away. The breathing grew louder, not aggressive, not threatening, just patient, waiting. My hand trembled as I reached the bedroom door. I pushed it open slowly. The room was empty, completely empty. No furniture, no window, nothing. The breathing stopped and the silence returned. I stood there for a long time, staring into the empty room, trying to convince myself I had imagined everything. Eventually, I returned to the living room and sat down. That's when I noticed something strange. The corridor looked shorter, much shorter. The bedroom door was now clearly visible from where I sat. But that wasn't the strange part. The strange part was the candle. The flame had almost burned out, and the melted wax had dripped across my hand. In that melted wax, there was another handprint, smaller than mine, pressed into the wax while it was still warm. I stared at it for a long time, trying to understand, trying to remember, because the truth is, I had been alone in that house, completely alone. At least, I thought I was until I realized something was much more worse. The breathing I heard in the corridor had never been in front of me. It had been always right behind me. Well, thank you for listening. If you have enjoyed this story, do not forget to subscribe, and let's meet next Saturday for another interesting story. Till then, happy listening.